what would be like the number one thing that you think would kill your channel?
Consuming pizza and watching anime.
How was your first year of YouTube? What did that look like for you?
Like, my content's bad. And even though we had about $150,000 of brand partnerships.
Has there ever been an idea that you were so excited for and then it just completely flopped?
Oh yeah, we just did a couple of RuneScape videos.
How you been?
Oh, we're negative 250K year to date.
Welcome back to the Blueprint Podcast, where we help you develop your own foundation to a successful creator career. With us today has been on YouTube for 13 years, over 8,000 videos, and over 50 million subscribers. And he's just a good friend, Mr. Preston Plays.
Thank you for having me on the Blueprint Podcast, boys. I'm very excited to be here.
Dude, welcome. It's been a long time since I've seen you.
It has been quite some time.
How you been?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
As you can tell, a lot of things have changed since you guys last came down to Dallas about a year ago. There's been quite a lot of scaling, a lot of new operations and new facilities.
Dude, a lot of scaling.
A lot of scaling.
You tripled the size of your team, I think,
Yeah,
from the
about-
last time we were here.
Yeah, it was probably at 35 team members full-time, and that's including like retainer-based contractors as well as full-time employees. And then now it's a little bit over 100.
Wow. Okay. Before
100
we get
people to make YouTube videos.
Before we get into any of these deep, serious questions, I want to start it off with something a little light. I want you to think of the 4 most influential creators in your mind, personal to you. If YouTube was building a Mount Rushmore, who are you putting on there?
Oh, can it be more legacy creators that we looked up to maybe in the past versus present?
It could be whoever you think is the most influential. Who do you enjoy watching back then? Anybody.
Oh, I mean, I think it was going to be Dude Perfect. It's going to be Tobuscus. It's going to be PewDiePie. I mean, I'm a mixture of commentary between Tobuscus and PewDiePie. A lot more on Tobuscus.
Yeah.
Because when you're making YouTube videos, you're trying to figure out what type of voice you want to have, and it's a lot easier to adapt somebody else's style, right? I think people that are very intelligent, they learn very quickly. So if you can pick up the mannerisms from people that you look up to and why they're successful, you can start to mimic it and then form it into your own style. But anyways, 4th person, that's a real tough one. I would say Beijing Canadian, long-time friend. Really influenced a lot of the ways that I created videos back in the day.
It's actually really funny that you mentioned Beijing Canadian because I used to watch him as a kid growing up. I watched all his videos. I just loved it. He had such a good personality. And then years later, started my YouTube channel, got some success, and then we were making videos with him.
Is that what's crazy?
Like,
it's like
it
once
was-
you get on, you're with everybody else.
Yeah, it's like wild. I was just like, whoa, like 3 years ago, I watched you, and now I'm like here with you hanging out, like went to Florida,
Now
hung
we're
out with
playing
him.
block game.
Yeah. Crazy. It's just insane. But
Well, I wanted to know after that question, what made you actually want to start YouTube? What made you want to become a YouTuber and just create content?
yeah, let's take it back to how many years ago?
2010, I believe, is when you started the TBNR Frags channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2010 was your first YouTube channel. How old were you then? Were you in high school?
Yeah, I would say 16 or 17 because I graduated high school a little early at 16, right at the end. So I hadn't turned 17 yet. But even before then, before YouTube was acquired by Google, I'd already been posting a couple of RuneScape videos, all deleted and archived now, of course. But realistically, the first channel I actually took seriously was the TBNR Frags channel way back in 2010.
And what do you think like motivated you to start that? Like, did you just see other creators and you were just like, oh, let me give it a shot? Did you were you a creative kid? Did you love making videos? Like what
No.
Like why?
Honestly, so I used to play competitive PC Call of Duty. Back then, tournaments were like $50 for prize pools. There was tournaments called CSL. There was ESL. There was CAL. There were all these different tournaments that were going on, and I loved playing in them competitively, and I was really good. And I was like, oh man, maybe I can teach people how to get better at Call of Duty. Because back then, YouTube was just saturated with Call of Duty content. And so that's how I started. If you guys remember X-Jaws,
Yes.
Sam or X-Jaws, I mean, huge inspiration, one of the OGest creators back in like Black Ops 1. And I was like, oh, dude, this guy's got it so easy. I mean, I'm so much better than this Xbox kid. And then I realized, wow, making YouTube videos is really difficult. And I had a massive ego, and I was very humbled once I started posting my first few videos and realized it's so difficult to build an audience.
How was that? How was your first year of YouTube? What did that look like for you?
It was a lot of streaming on Twitch, actually. So I did it in reverse, where I was trying to stream and build up a live audience, not only to get better on presence. I didn't have face cam for like the first year, but it was just more so cutting out the and buts and trying to have a better live presence and also connect with viewers. That's something that I still feel like a lot of YouTubers are taking for granted, and something that I'm so thankful for is the fact that viewers have stayed consistent throughout the years and that they're willing to give their time to watch our content. And so I wanted to know more about them. And so it started off with like 1, 2, 5. I mean, maybe 6 months into Twitch, I had 30 viewers. It took a long time to build that up, but I would always ask people to go to my YouTube channel and check out my content. And I was one of the guys who would spam YouTube channels and like, go subscribe to my channel. I'm almost at 250 subscribers.
Dude, I actually did something like that when I was growing my YouTube channel. I made so this was like I don't think it's a trend anymore, but it was a huge trend like 7, 8 years ago. And people would have Twitter pages where they would retweet videos. And yeah, you remember that?
Do you remember the Machinima Respawn app on Facebook?
No.
Oh yeah, I was spamming that. I had 20 fake Facebook accounts to boost my own post.
But
I was sweating.
I made a Twitter account, and it was called like YouTube or retweet YouTube or something like that. I don't remember what it was called, but all I would do is retweet people's YouTube videos to help them grow. And the account exploded. It got like 8,000, 9,000 followers. And then I just started promoting my own stuff. And I was just...
That's brilliant. Back in the day, it was
I owned,
always, dude, it was always sub for sub. You don't see those comments anymore these days, but it was always, you sub, I'll sub back. Sub for sub was huge. And back in the day, on YouTube channels, you had inboxes. People could literally direct message you on your channel. You had a channel page similar to a Twitter feed where people could also post updates and discussions directly on your channel. And boy, did I take advantage of that.
The good old days. Well, now we got community posts. We kind of got something
it's
similar.
It's similar. Who knows even how the search and discovery works on that? Pro tip, if you guys have polls in your community posts, the engagement rate and the viewership has always been about 40 times higher for us. So if we literally just post a thumbs up option or a thumbs down option, and it's pizza with pineapple on it, for example, we'll get 400 or 500,000 votes versus if I just post a picture of you and I.
Interesting.
Yeah, the poll feature.
We're going to take that advice and we're going to go back home and...
You're probably going to see a poll on the community page right now.
But ultimately, I think what you're saying, like from your growth, what I'm seeing is just like you just got better over time, and you got better the more videos you made, the more you live streamed. And ultimately, like for one of the things that I really like about being a creator is the more videos you post, the more flaws you see in your previous work. Like right now, I feel like I'm the best version of myself. We're putting out the best videos that our team can do. But even after we put them out, I still see flaws. And it's just kind of like that repeat. Like, do you feel that way about a lot of your videos?
I do sometimes. Right now, with all the scaling we've done, I do feel like we've taken a step back for viewer value, which is really unfortunate and problem I'm trying to rectify now, because you really can't scale and triple your size while also maintaining the same level of consistent quality of content.
No.
People think that more people solve problems. That is not the case. It's the right people. Plus, you're looking for level 5 leaders, people who want to take ownership. You don't want to hire geniuses. You want to hire people that are for sure as good as you, if not better, but you can't just have a genius and surround them with 10 people. It doesn't work that way. And so unfortunately, you're going to have to spend a lot of time and resources interviewing, hiring, building strategic plans, standard operating procedures, guiding principles, all these other things as you scale. Plus, the government treats you entirely different once you reach 50 employees. And you have to have even more documentation and operations that are set up for success as well. So I feel like right now, a lot of the videos we've made on the Preston channel are actually infinitely worse. And I've deleted probably half the videos we filmed in the past 6 months. So it's been quite unfortunate.
Wow.
Wow, yeah.
So you have a lot of things you're focusing on. Like you have multiple different channels. You're doing shorts. You're doing all types of other stuff. You're doing. Are you still making like Minecraft maps for Minecraft and stuff like that too?
Are you talking about for Marketplace or just for like a Minecraft channel? Yes, we do have a different company. It's Fire Games, so it's focused on game development, of course. We have a Marketplace arm. We also connected with Big Bang, which is a similar platform to Roblox. There's like no downloads or installs needed. You literally just click a link on your phone, PC, and you can play. And so we were actually paid not only to promote, but to make the games. So we make them and then we promote them.
Nice.
Very successful as well. And then the third that we're working on now is Roblox. And we have 3 games that are in the pipeline. So that's really exciting. But I do find that I say yes to the woman in the red dress far too often, or the guy in the red dress, depending on preference. It's more so you see this opportunity, you think it's exciting. Even me being on the Blueprint podcast and being like, wow, maybe I should start my own. But that is only going to take me away from my goal and split my focus even further. So I've been really trying to dial that in. I'm very scatter focused, and I love being present anywhere, anytime. I used to get mad at Nathan, and I'd have to contact his girlfriend to get answers from him. But I realize it's a flaw in me because I'm so scatter focused, and I'm not hyper focusing on one thing at a time. I'm just always present, but I'm never focused.
So speaking of focus, I love this topic, but you compared to, like, this is just a statistic. You're in the top like 0.001% of creators. I think you have one of the biggest creator teams out there. What is the biggest thing you focus on a day-to-day basis? Because like me, for example, like our team is like probably 40% of your size, and I focus a ton of my time on being creative and then filming the videos. I would say that's like 80% of every week is just being creative with the videos, thinking of ideas, and then actually filming them. What would you say like is the biggest consumption of your time with how many people you have working for you?
There's three things. The biggest one that's consuming time that I'm prioritizing right now is management. So everybody here at the company of TBNR is not only a manager, which means you're just managing individuals, we're also working managers. Because of course, not only am I the CEO of the company of 100 people, but I'm also actively being in all of the content as well as QCing content, providing feedback. So number one would be management. That's a real big one. The second one would be the hiring process, because nobody knows how to hire like the creator themselves. They know how to evaluate, ask the tough questions, which can be very difficult. And of course, the third one, which should be number one, is filming. But right now that takes a little bit of a backseat because my focus is building a stronger team, whereas the content suffers from that, but there's no right or wrong answer there. But I do believe that viewers should always be the primary focus. And I think I'm spread a little bit too thin in that regard.
Definitely. Yeah, you have a lot going on. I thought I had a lot going on.
I'm curious how you find that balance between personal and work life, or is just your life in general just work and you squeeze in little moments of just having fun with friends and family?
Well, it's really nice when you love what you do, right? Like there's definitely like most of the channels I really enjoy filming for right now. There are definitely times and videos and channels that are not on my favorite list, so to say, because the content isn't authentic to the viewer and it's not authentic to us. So when you step and you're filming that, it's not fun to put out a product that you're not passionate about or that you're not excited to share with your viewers. And so you have two options at that point. You cut your losses, or you continue and put out that type of video. But to go back to your original question, I get home at the same time, probably as most creators, like 6 to 8 p.m. And then at that point, I'm either like hitting the gym or watching some anime with my wife, just chilling, having a good time. But I still find that I have plenty of personable time. And I also always take Saturdays off. And if I like have to work on a Saturday, like I'll take the Sunday off or the Monday off. So like one day a week to just absolutely veg really like refills my battery.
No, I think that's super important to have one, dedicated day to kind of just relax, take your mind off of everything, and just kind of be in the moment with anybody that you really care about. I think that's super important.
The Sabbath, crazy, yeah.
One thing that I've done, and it's worked really well for me, is like Monday through Friday, full day. I'm usually going from like 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., sometimes 6 p.m., pretty much working with the team all day. Like filming videos, creative, like whatever needs to get done Monday through Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, I work on myself. So more personal development, like reading books, spending more time working out, like going to, spending more time at a lunch because, it's still a day off and I'll kind of do whatever I want, but I just kind of fit in more of like the personal development stuff. I feel like it resets me for the week. It's nice, but
You guys.
I think you just got to figure out what works for you. And after you do it for so long, you're like, oh, I really like enjoying, or I enjoy this schedule.
But even if you love what you do, like you just don't need as much time off. You really just don't. I do think everybody needs to dedicate one day a week to laying on the couch, consuming pizza, and watching anime. Like they need to do whatever it is that their heart desires to refill. But genuinely, if you're loving what you're doing, sometimes it's just like, oh my gosh, it's 10 p.m. I really need to go to bed so I can wake up the next morning, and you don't even realize the time is flying by. Versus when you're doing projects that are unsatisfying or unfulfilling, you're checking the time and you're like, it's only noon. This is bad.
Yeah, I think that's a huge key to success for anyone that's looking to be a creator. And it's not just about like, I think another thing to touch on this is when I first started, like, making content, I was not super excited to do it. It was something new to me, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. But I will say, each year that I made more and more content, I started to love it more and more and more. And now I'm 10 years in and I love it way more than year 9 and year 8. So it like keeps compounding. It's almost like you don't, because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I'm passionate about it. I think you build passion like through the process. I think you learn to love it more and more. And I think that's one of, like, as I look back on like all the years of YouTube, I just thought that was like really interesting. Because when I look at year two, I wasn't that passionate about YouTube. Like I was just like, man, is this gonna work? Oh, I don't know. I'm so tired of editing. I'm so tired of this. And I was just like, let's just keep doing it. Like, what else do I have to do? Because at the time I had nothing else to do. So
You also have really good discipline, which is something that is very favorable and difficult to teach, right? It's something that has to be more so self-taught. You can encourage others to practice discipline more, but it's really difficult. And it's something you've always set a great example for me.
yeah.
And I think the passion and authenticity, you could see it within the content. And if you don't really have those two things, you're ultimately going to fail. I'm curious to know, what do you think causes failure for creators? What do you think is the number one thing that could cause a creator to kind of just plummet?
Definitely lack of candor is a big one, at least when you have team sizes. But self-awareness is also a form of candor. So we'd like to practice radical candor as much as possible here at TBNR. A lot of people are worried about hurting somebody's feelings or offending somebody, but when you really care about the products you're creating and you're providing critical feedback, it's never at the person, it's at the product that they're creating, which it's hard to sometimes separate the two of them, right? But I really find that self-awareness is really important, because if you do need that time off and you're a creator and you're not allowing yourself to take that time off, bad mistake. If you have somebody you've been putting so much time and effort into and they're not working out and they're not meeting expectations, maybe they're unsatisfied in their job role, it's going to burn you out as well. So much of it comes down to self-awareness.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. What about like for YouTube, like for content? Like what would you say, like what would be like the number one thing that you think would kill your channel?
Ooh, definitely. I mean, it really comes down to viewer leverage, right? Because if you're putting out content that you love to do and your viewers love to do, you're building more and more leverage. This is something that Mr. Beast has done fantastically, right? He can put out any content, but he's also never going to forsake his viewers, ever, right? And so he has like one of the most pristine, leveraged brands on the entire platform. And so the more that you go away from that, the more difficult it is to rebuild it as well, right? But I think that's what kills a channel, is when you're not delivering what the viewers want to see. If you're constantly posting content that's poor retention, meaning your viewers are not interested, and everybody talks about the algorithm, and it's like, well, the algorithm is based off of viewer feedback and viewer patterns and behavior. So that's a really big one. So yeah, if you have consistent content that's low performing retention-wise, then you're inherently slowly killing your channel. I mean, you are falling off.
Yeah.
Feels bad, man.
I totally agree with that.
Do you think we're falling into more of a storytelling era of YouTube again? I think that a lot of people have been criticizing the beastification of videos. And I think I think Ryan Trahan is a great example of him doing a lot of storytelling based videos, but still garnishing like a huge audience.
The era's always changed, right? We had the PewDiePies
Yeah.
of the storytelling through horror games. Then we had the Tobuscus, the crazy, fun energy, and they were all over the place. So it's always going to be up and down. It's going to change preferences, but ultimately, I think all that did was bring more awareness to a different type of style of content that can be consumed based on our data that we collect. We have a company, Fire Data, that's all about AI and the algorithm and collecting information. It is very relevant that challenge is still the number one keyword and what viewers are watching on the platform.
Yeah, you keep mentioning companies. How many companies have you built just from, starting a YouTube channel in 2010?
Oh, in 2010, probably about 12 or so.
Wow.
Because the Cosmic Saga was a big one. We actually have that all available, all the public information. So grossed over $25 million for those 3 Minecraft servers. We had over 1 million, I believe, unique player joins, which is awesome. It's all RIP now. Thanks, Eula. See ya. But it was a really fun process, and that's what allowed us also to scale initially, because we had the financial means to be able to purchase property to host our team members and to also host our content. So those were definitely the most successful. But even among those, we had unsuccessful Cosmic projects. We had one called Cosmic Heroes for Roblox, sunk about $80,000, never saw the light of day. Blocks Guys, $500,000 in Roblox development for one game. didn't get more than a couple hundred concurrent players. StarQuest, a mobile app game, no downloads. So, I mean, there's plethora of those types of examples.
Wow.
But I would say more hits than not. But if I could go back, I definitely would narrow it down more rather than splitting the focus so much.
Wow. Do you think it's important for a creator, or when do you think is it important for a creator to start businesses after, developing a YouTube presence?
Once they've definitely established that viewer trust and loyalty, again, the more leverage they have with their audience, and you know that no matter when you promote a product or realistically a brand deal, you do lose a little bit of leverage with them depending on how you were able to portray that product. I think Prime's been a great example of how they've actually been able to promote a product while also keeping the leverage with their viewers, even Jimmy with Feastables. So yeah, I think it's very situational, but you have to be very self-aware of where you are with your relationship with your audience.
Wow. Yeah, I totally agree. And if you had to go back and think about all of the companies that kind of didn't work out the way you wanted to, how would you take those failures and kind of like turn them into learning lessons? Like, what have you learned from those failures essentially?
Definitely comes down to knowing what the project looks like and then also having actual appropriate deadlines and stop losses, right? Like if you have a project you want to launch, you should double if you think it's going to cost you $100,000, double it. It's probably going to cost $200,000. And then if you have expected ROI of, let's say, $50,000, cut it in half. That's a really good way that I would be able to go back and just to quickly measure what I think this is going to look like and the outcome. That would be fantastic. And then also really to be aware of the inner workings. Have a transparent system where you can actually keep track of things at face value that doesn't consume a lot of your time, but don't have hidden things through personal DMs or even Slack. Like have an appropriate project management software that's transparent where you can actually track the progress of everything that's happening, including finances. Something, of course, like QuickBooks that's actually organized and detailed where you can see classes and expenses and so on and so forth. If you don't know where your money's going, then it's probably going through your fingers.
Are there any regrets that you have starting so many different companies?
I mean, the same thing that we mentioned prior. I wish I would have doubled down on my focus as much as possible rather than splitting off. And there's definitely been plenty of times where we've brought on incorrect team members because you put a lot of hopes or expectations on someone. But at the end of the day, you can't do that. It's unfair to them, and it's also unfair because they're never going to meet the expectations that you have. You really need to build a core team, find a level 5 leader, put them in the right place and establish them before you move on to the next project if you want to build more than one project at a time.
What is one factor that you think would destroy the entire company?
Ooh, one big factor?
One big factor is something that's kind of like itch in the back of your mind.
One big factor that would destroy the company. I mean, of course, if I ever decided I didn't want to make YouTube videos again, that would probably destroy the company. I mean, thankfully, I have Brianna, who makes more money than me pretty much at this point. So,
Oh, wow, really?
Stonks. That's pretty fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I would say like the moment we just stop caring about the content and caring about the viewer, that's easily the biggest downfall of any company that's trying to build viewer trust. Right?
You think you're still going strong? How many years left do you think you have doing YouTube videos?
I don't know, man. I mean, still like 15 to 20.
Wow.
Maybe longer.
15 to 20 more years.
I really like making videos. I mean, I don't even know what I'd do with all the extra time. I would get so bored. I mean, I was just at Vicstar's wedding in Malta, meeting up with all the old pack guys and, the sidemen and stuff like that. And I was like, this is fun, but I mean, 5 days, I'm good. Like, I want to get back. I'm excited to go make videos again.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never found something like this where I can put my passion into something. I was not like, other than video games growing up as a kid, like there wasn't anything I could really dump my passion into like this. And now that you found something like this, you almost just don't want to let it go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure when we have kids that will change a little bit. I'm sure that'll happen in probably a couple of years as well. But even then, I just don't see myself really ever stopping YouTube because you could still do content. Content will evolve. It'll be different, but it'll still be video content.
Yeah.
Do you think in 15 to 20 years you're going to keep trying to play the game, like the algorithm, or are you going to go the PewDiePie route where he's kind of just like this family man, just making vlogs in Japan, living his life, still posting and getting like 3 million views a video?
That's a really tough one because I've also thought about that as well, but I don't know if I'd see a lot of satisfaction in doing that because even right now we could, right? If we wanted to, you could really just go in with a very small stealth-like team, still operate, have really high, high profits and low margins, but I don't know if I'd see the excitement in that. So I think at any point in time, I'd still want to be somebody who's helping creators.
Definitely.
Or at least building much larger businesses, right? That's always been a dream of mine is like, how do I build a Fortune 500 company? Which is extremely ambitious, but I really believe that we can do it through the digital creator space. I want to build Digital Rome. What does Digital Rome look like? I can't tell you. because not even I know what that is. But that's something to me that's just so stimulating and so exciting because there is just so much opportunity in the digital space right now, and it's only going to get larger.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to touch on 2 points there. I totally agree with you. The amount of opportunity today that we have of being a creator is way more in the past. I feel like when we started content 10, 14 years ago, is way more difficult to grow on YouTube versus now you have shorts. You have so many different avenues that you can just pick up like steam so easily. Like, and then to touch on your other point about caring, I think when you care so much, you end up learning more ultimately because of how much you care. And then you're also like the person that you just love like the journey. And I think it's like so hard to compete with someone like that. Like, I'm the same way too. I love the act of just making a video. It is so much fun to me watching an idea on a piece of paper turn into a script, turn into a real thing, watching it set up, watching it be filmed, getting it into the editing bay, reviewing the footage, making fine tweaks, and then after weeks of doing that at post and you just see the crowd go wild.
Yeah, or not go wild.
Or
Either
not.
or.
But I think that's just like, but I think, and back to what I touched on earlier, I think that level of care and passion and, loving the journey, I think that's something you build along the way.
Right.
I don't think you felt like the way you feel right now. I don't think you felt that. Like, did you feel that way, 7 or 8 years ago? Or do you think it's gotten stronger over the years?
It's just changed, but I've always felt really strong and passionate about creating videos. And now the passion's changed a little bit more into building the right team and still filming videos, but so I can provide more value for the viewers. I mean, that was the original reason behind hiring an editor in 2016. I was like, I'm garbage at editing. Like, my content's bad. I was like, I think I got pretty good commentary and pretty good ideas, but if I really want to give more value and get more leverage in my audience, I need to invest in somebody who can take the time to edit, place music, tell stories with the content that I'm giving them. And so the only difference between that is that now it's just scaled and there's so many more departments within the company that can provide different value to the viewers in more unique ways. So just like having a brand partnership team in-house, right? Like, I'm able to provide so much more value to our viewers because once you have somebody that's in-house going at bat for you with the brand about why this is important, we do it this way, and why the viewers are going to love this, and you'll get better conversions, then you're not forced to post something that you're not proud of or that your audience won't like, and it won't even yield good conversions for the brand.
Yeah. Back to the editor thing, because I think that's really interesting. I think that was my first hire. That was your first hire, was an editor. I think I would say 90% of creators, that's probably their first hire.
God
is
bless
an editor.
them. God bless.
How do you get over the fear of hiring your first employee or first editor? Or what would you even say to some of the creators? I know some creators that have almost 10 million subscribers and they still edit their own videos.
I mean, Mark Rober edits his own videos still.
Yeah, like what is your thoughts on that?
Well, thankfully, I was terrible at editing, so it wasn't a very difficult choice, to be completely frank with you. There's people like Laserbeam. I was just speaking at him at Fix Wedding, and he's like, yeah, oh my gosh, like all of these things, and like I'm still like doing a lot of the V1 edits, but he's also a phenomenal editor, right? And he knows his audience so well that it's really hard to give somebody else that because he's also so good at it. But honestly, some people are just not ready to make that jump. It's quite difficult, but you definitely need to do it if you want to build more leverage. Yeah. And you have to follow a pretty simple rule of like 80-20. I mean, everybody talks about 80-20 rules, but if they can do it at least 80% as well as you can, hardly the 20% will notice that difference at all.
That's a very interesting rule of thumb. Yeah, I remember when I hired my first editor, I was decent at editing, but like I found someone, after searching for a couple weeks, and I was like, this guy is actually just as good as me. And the second after I hired him, I doubled my time, maybe even tripled it, because I would film a video, and this was like 8 years ago when I was making Minecraft videos, but it would take me probably an hour to maybe 2 hours to film a video. Then it would take me like 8 hours to edit it. So I get that 8 hours back almost every single day, and I would be able to film 3 more videos every single day. I tripled my upload speed, like within a week. It was insane.
Yeah, it's hard to trust people to do that, but it definitely is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It's so interesting seeing your guys' perspectives on like when you guys hired people, because I'm still like very new to this creator scene and I haven't hired anybody. And so I'm still doing everything myself. Where do you see, or do you feel like there's a moment where once you scale a little bit too large that the creativity kind of starts fading away? Do you think you've been handing that off to other people?
Absolutely, because when we all played the game of telephone as kids, right? 10 of us line up, and then you say one sentence, and then you pass it down, pass it down. It's very similar once you start to scale, right? Because then you have not only different departments, we have three very simple ones. You have creative, right? You have production, and then you have post-production. And so by the time it gets from the start of the pipeline to the end of the pipeline, things can change drastically. So ensuring that the vision is continued to be prioritized, which is what we mentioned, viewer value, and not everybody gets it. And that's something that you have to evaluate. And a very simple evaluation is, do they know the difference between great content and bad content? And if they can't analyze that, it's very difficult, because then you're going to get to the end of the pipeline where you're not going to be satisfied with how the video turned out.
Yeah. That's kind of one of the things I do with my team. We'll figure out the title. Well, the title and the thumbnail of the video is the idea of the video. So we'll figure out the idea of the video, and then we'll define the purpose of it. What is our goal for this video? What is the mission? What are we accomplishing? What does the ending look like? And then I'll just hand it to the team, and they'll go to town on it. They'll plan everything out. They'll, just lay it all out, and then I'll come back and I'll review everything with them, and I'll be like, change this. Let's do more of that. Let's do less of this, whatnot. And then once we get everything finalized and ordered, we film it.
I think it's my problem is that a better solution would be to bring on 1 to 2 people at a time and just dump everything into them. Like almost get them to think the way that you think and to make decisions the way that you make decisions, but obviously in their own style. That way, because you can train creators, but it's hard to find and hire them, right? It really is very difficult. And so I wish that I would have done it in that method instead to get somebody. And I did it with like Chase, somebody who's talent in our content. When he used to write for the Preston channel, he very much so knew what the content was and how to make it as exciting as possible, because I spent so much time with him back and forth on revising content. And eventually it does click, but for some people it doesn't always click.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard because it's so different from any other type of media.
Well, think about it. Most people in the space are like, oh, I like watching TikToks. I like watching YouTube videos. I should, join a team. And it takes a lot of discipline. And also you have to love being a servant to the viewer. You really do. Because if you're not a servant to the viewer, you will not have fun. You just won't have fun. It's difficult. It's so difficult. And you might think, oh my gosh, this idea is so good. But it's not. It's not good. And you have to be okay with killing your idea child.
We've had many of those.
Yes.
Hundreds of those.
Right? I mean, I'm sure it happens to you very often where like you have expectations for a video and you might even pitch it and then get on set, you film it, and you're like, wow, this really, like, what happened to the vision here, guys?
Yeah, I think it's like probably every 3 videos we film. Maybe 4.
Yeah, I've felt like it a little bit more than that personally.
Yeah.
So what do you do to ensure that vision stays cohesive throughout the process?
I just spend a lot of time with the creative team. I'm just like, we'll have as many meetings as we need to. And I'll also, I can see everything they're planning. So I'll also look at everything they're planning on my own time as well. And if I see anything that's out of place or doesn't align with the purpose, or, hey, what is this? What is this? Send a message, whatever. But yeah, I just try to be as involved as I can.
Do you think it's possible to remove yourself from that process one day?
Yes, I definitely do, but it would just be so difficult. Like what you're saying, it's like
you need someone that really understands your brain, understands content.
I think the only way it would work is if I brought in another creator that has already been creating content to be me, like be that person.
I've done that before, to bring on creative strategists that have ran their own channels, and it still doesn't always align.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to align, but I think that's like one of the only ways. I don't know, unless you just find some
A clone.
unicorn. Like it's such a difficult role to.
I want to make this very clear too. The reason why it's important to scale is because I want to provide value to the viewer. Nathan wants to provide value to the viewer. This is not a greedy subject. I was making far more money and pocketing more money having a smaller team. This is obvious, right? I mean, payroll is substantial these days. It is. And budgets per video is substantial. It is not about the growth of the individual pocket. It's about wanting to make bigger, better videos. And it's really difficult to do. But the reason why we're all trying to scale is because we want to make better videos, bigger videos to stimulate more excitement. But it's very, very difficult to do.
Yeah. I look back like 3 years ago when my team was super small, and I like have a remembering of how much money I was taking in a month, and it was just like
absurd.
It was absurd. It was like, yeah, it was insane. And then now that I've hired more and more people, the revenue hasn't really changed. My revenue's kind of stayed the same for the past like 4 or 5, I'd say probably 4 years. But my costs have like 10x'd.
Right.
I mean, we're at a point where some months we're spending more than we're making.
Oh, we're negative 250K year to date. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, this whole year?
Yeah, so year to date, the past 9 months. There's some other factors in there that I
Wow.
can't go into detail because it's NDA. So if those factors weren't in play, we would be positive.
Wow.
Wow. That is crazy.
Has there ever been an idea that you were so excited for and you spent so much money on it and then it just completely flopped?
Oh, yeah. We just did a Westfield Mall hide and seek video probably back in March. It was an awesome brand partnership. 2 brand deals in one. First time we ever had that. So Westfield flew us out to Maryland to film inside of the mall. $100,000 hide and seek. But the expenses that people don't see in the back end is like another $250,000. So $100,000 for the prize pool plus $250,000 in costs. Because of course you're going to pay everybody to be there regardless if they win or not. Flying out production team members, props, editing, you name it. It gets really expensive. That video did not even 2 million views for something that we spent $300,000 on. And even though we had about $150,000 of brand partnerships on it, you're still taking a loss of $150,000.
So $150,000 loss. How much money do you think that 2 million views made you? Like 20 grand?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And I was really excited for the product. You know, I was stoked. I was pumped.
It's funny that you had a huge flop in hide and seek because we had a huge flop in hide and seek. We rented out an entire football stadium.
I remember that.
Yeah, and that was we spent 150,000 on that video, and yeah, just got 3 million views.
But it's funny, our YouTuber hide and seek did really good, and you were in that one.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And we spent far less. The stadium was free. We had the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, biggest stadium in the U.S. It was fantastic. I mean, I don't even remember what we spent on it, to be honest. Could have been more than 150K, but we definitely profited off of that video.
That video did like 10 million?
20, yeah.
20 million
15
views?
to 20.
Wow.
Yeah, and like honestly, with the Westfield Mall video, which you can see on the channel, it was 50 teenagers and then 50 of their parents competing for the 100,000. And these teenage kids are selling out where their parents are hiding. Like it's so fun, it's so exciting, and you're so excited for the product, and then the viewers are not.
What do you think the flaw was that made it, not pop off like you wanted it to?
Yeah, viewer expectation for sure. Because sometimes you can be so sold on your ideas and you're not checking your own ideas for flaws. And so you just get so infatuated with like, this idea is amazing. It's going to be a banger. Oh my gosh. And then once it gets down to brass tacks, you're like, wait, this video really wasn't as exciting as we thought it was. Inherently, it's just finding people in a mall, which sounds really cool and exciting, but you're just playing hide and seek in a mall.
Yeah. That's how we did a video recently, the storage unit video. I was like so excited about that video. We bought 3 storage units, flew out a bunch of people. We had like storage unit people that actually do it for a living, compete and bid. And then we had them sell all the stuff within 72 hours. And it was cool. I was so excited for the idea because I love like Storage War, like the TV show, Storage Wars. And yeah, I remember looking back at the footage after we filmed it and spent all this money and all this time. And I was just like, wow, this is so boring. Just watching people like organize all this junk and figuring out how to sell it. But like when I was thinking of the idea, a month ago,
Hey, loved it.
I was like, this is so sick. Like there's not even many YouTubers doing this. Like this is like, this.
Well, now we know why. We know why not a lot of YouTubers are doing it.
Tough.
But yeah, that's one of the things. One of the things is I feel like some of the best creators are able to, because you hear a lot of people like, oh, kind of like what you're saying, listen to the viewer, listen to your audience. Like, but I feel like some of the best creators are able to figure out how to deliver a video to their audience that they're not even asking for.
Right.
I almost compare this to like Apple. When Apple released the iPod back in, I think it was like 2001, I want to say. I could be wrong. But before the iPod, everyone was carrying around those big CD things with all the CDs.
I had one.
No one asked for the iPod. No one asked for it. And it was one of the greatest inventions of our lifetime. But I think creators are kind of that same way. Like they're able to deliver something to the audience that they're not even asking for. They're not expecting it. No one requested it. And then they're just like, wow, this is insane.
Do you have any guiding principles or like standard operating procedures that you guys have for retention? So that way you can deliver more value to the viewer on a consistent basis?
I think
Or is it case by case basis where it's like, we just break the videos down, but where does that breakdown go? And does it live in this living document that guides future creative strategists or even yourself to making better content every video?
We have some like formulas that we will lay out. Like it depends on the idea, right? So some of our ideas we can kind of like, I call it like stair stepping. Like we can stair step into like the final thing, and we can kind of escalate it throughout the video. So I think that would be one thing. But one thing that I feel like we've learned about retention is the videos that have the best retention are not even really about the retention. It's just the idea itself. Because like we did the video that we did where I turned my house into a trampoline park. That video did 50 million views. It had there was nothing in that video that kept the viewer watching. There was nothing. Like we didn't like tease them and then, drag them on or anything like that. We literally, the intro of the video, hey, I turned my house into a trampoline park. Let's have fun. And then the whole video, all we were doing is just having fun. We didn't and that video did really good retention. I think it, 56, 55% maybe.
For 50 million views, I think 55, 60 is pretty good.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
But I think it was just the idea. I think people were just so fascinated with the fact that I put all these trampolines inside my house and they were just like, wow, this is insane.
Payoffs are definitely a big one though as well. Yeah. If you can have an inherent payoff, some video formats lean on that. We break down a lot of our content into different types of formats so that way we can learn more about each format. So for example, a showcase format would be like our 100 layer series, which isn't even 100 layers anymore. Now it's like World's Strongest Man versus Bulletproof Glass. And what's really cool about that video is you're packaging around the bulletproof glass, but that's the last thing people will see. That's the payoff. But in the meantime, you have just as interesting content leading up to that. First one being sugar glass, stuff they use in the movies. Yeah. Throw a bowling ball at it, 8 seconds of content. You're through the first one. Then you're on to the next. So you get to have that. Some videos just have innate payoffs. And I think that sticking with formats that have the innate payoffs are much better. This is why traditionally hide and seeks typically do well, because either there's a seeker or multiple hiders or vice versa, and you need to see who's the last one found.
Yeah. Kind of like a 5-course meal.
Well, like survival challenges too. I mean, Jimmy's new video is a very good example of that, getting every single country to compete. Everybody wants to know the payoff of which country technically is the best competitor. It has a very innate payoff, which obviously he only fronted $250,000 for the talent. I guarantee you it took him $3.5 million to produce the video, but he finds that there's more emotional payoff that way, or just more exciting payoff to have a reason for the end, but you don't even need to tease that. I mean, it's already inherently in the video. Every country is competing for 250 grand. Like innately, you're like, well, okay, which country's the best?
Yeah, I think another way I learned a lot of this, not just through creating content, but I like to go out and look at other people's content too, not just on YouTube, but like Netflix and TV shows. And, like I love sitting down and watching a new TV show and then watching the first couple episodes. And I know not a lot of people do this when they watch TV shows, but this is just the way I'm wired because I make so much content. So it's like, but I'll watch like a couple episodes and I'll think to myself, I was like, okay, what just happened there? Why was I so intrigued to watch the second episode? What kind of emotion was I feeling? Was I eager to see it? Why was I eager to see it? And then I'll literally pull out my phone on the couch and start writing notes. And I'll save them and I'll figure out how to like put it into a video one day.
First episode of Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
He knows. This guy knows. Going back to what you said about asking us about the procedure for retention, I think the space is still so new and we're still trying to like teach our team like what it means to have a really engaging video. And I think it just boils down to understanding that your audience likes a certain piece of content, you like a certain piece of content, and merging those two together. You got to find that balance, whether
right,
like
Goldilocks zone.
Exactly. I think that's kind of what we're trying to teach the team right now. And since the space is so new, it's hard to find like people who understand that right off the bat when you
Okay,
hire
but
them.
let's say you have hide and seek as a popular show format, which we've both done many, many times, correct? And you bring in a new team member that has very little experience, but they have guiding principles or formulas on how to write typically the most engaging hide and seek video. Do you think that would be helpful or not helpful?
I think it would be incredibly helpful.
Keep it simple, Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. Nothing should ever be too complex that you cannot simplify it. Like it really should be almost spoon-fed because otherwise nobody's going to use it. If it's a 10-page document, ain't nobody going to read that. I'm not going to read that. But I do think that would be very important and valuable, especially because show formats are so important. I just had like an hour and a half long conversation with old Jimmy Mr. Beast, and he's now developed consistent show formats, which is allowing him to produce so much more content on a consistent basis, right? Look at the stuff he has. He's got experiments that are now consistent. He now has his $1 versus X dollar. And he has his typical like spectacle, right? Which if he was only producing spectacles, for example, there's no way he can produce that on a consistent basis because everyone is so different for not only creative for production, but also post-production. But if you have a similar show format of like those experiment videos, you know approximately how to produce them, how to write them, and then how to edit them. It gets a little bit more formulated, not in a way where it gets boring, but it just becomes inherently more efficient.
Yeah. And I think those formulas work super well because like Jimmy's audience, and we do the same thing as well, but they get used to it, right? So like one of the formulas that we have done really well is filling my house with things, right? We've done that so many times in so many different ways, but like every single time it's just a banger video. I don't think we have a single video where I filled my house with something that has under 20 million views.
But there's been sometimes, I'm sure, where you've almost forsaked the series and you're like, no matter what we post it, it's a banger. And then you do something and you're like, this wasn't innovative enough.
Yeah.
Like surely you filled your house multiple times with packing peanuts and the second one didn't perform as high as the first one.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
The old replicate and innovate strategy.
Yeah, I think, well, some of them actually hit different because like
Really?
one of, like our Lego house, for example, Legos have been a huge part of the channel. We've built so many things with Legos. We've built boats, we've built small houses, life-size houses, all types of stuff. The biggest Lego video that I think we've ever done is building a life-size Lego house, right? We launched that video. I think it got like 10 million views, right? And then the next video we upload is moving in to my life-size Lego house. That video did 40 million views. Not building it, but moving into it. I thought building it was
Way excited, yeah.
yeah, way more exciting because what do people do with Legos? They build them, right? And then we, the second video, we moved into it like we were living in it. And that video just crushed it 4 times the amount of views. And, so that was one of those moments where I'm like, man, why did this do that? Like, why,
Well, I mean, think about Extreme Home Makeover. This is a really easy way to kind of portray it. They don't do a whole lot of building. Yeah, it's renovations on the inside, but it's primarily decorating. I think people find that more interesting innately than like building. There's not a lot of shows of like, let's build a house from scratch.
Yeah.
Not that I found on traditional media. I'm sure they do exist, of course. But I do find that the majority of the audience members find decorating to be more exciting. Even building a house in Minecraft is different than decorating your interior in Minecraft. And what you're going to do with the inside of your house typically is more interesting overall.
What do you, because I know, okay, so my question is like, how do you think of ideas? And I know that for me, it's a lot easier to think of ideas because of how many ideas I have created. And it gets easier to evaluate those ideas. We still have a lot of losses, obviously, because we can't win at every single one. Otherwise, YouTube would be super easy and we would be at 100 million subscribers by now. But is there a certain thing you look for in an idea, like a new idea, an exciting idea? Is there some factor that makes you be like, we have to do this?
Data is definitely important, but until our tools are more developed, excitement will take priority. So I knew when we created what was that video? It was, what was the dating one that I did with Brianna? I can't remember the name of it.
Guess the
the girlfriend.
Guess the girlfriend.
So that idea originated as like guessing the YouTuber from the Twitch streamers. And I thought that was a very boring idea. But I was like, Bree and I are about to be married for 5 years. What if we had 9 other women come and compete in these challenges and we can't see them and there's a very emotional payoff at the end? Because even if I get it wrong, people are going to stay till the end, right? And like I was so excited to actually get to do the actions of that video that I knew people were going to want to watch it. And it was a proven show format with a lot of the other channels like Beta Squad. Of course, we got tons of inspiration from them, the Sidemen, but it had never been done before. It's usually like dates, but nobody had been like, oh, let me see if I can figure out my spouse from these other fake spouses. But that idea was born off of, trading an idea sideways so many different times. So I knew that this content was very popular of people doing the guess the tall guy, short guy, etc. And I was like, I really want to get into this format, but what is an exciting way to get into it that's not already been done and also feels more personable? Because those types of videos, you get to build a lot of personability with your audience. The same thing as like survival challenges. It's very real, raw, and authentic. Nothing scripted, nothing is staged. So it's a really good opportunity for that. And I would love to be able to come up with those ideas all the time. I mean, you saw there was like 5 other channels that like copy that idea right away. And that's how you know, like you set a great trend. Like I love seeing that. I saw like all these other channels doing it. I was like, yes, let's freaking go.
That's interesting. So you'd say like the biggest factor is like your excitement.
Yeah.
For a video.
Yeah, and not my personal excitement. I really try to get people away from like pleasing me and more so pleasing the viewer. But if I'm walking through it in my head and it sounds super exciting to watch and engage with, and like I would watch a reality TV show based around this, I absolutely would.
Yeah, that's kind of the same way I felt with our tornado chasing video.
Yeah.
It was almost like I would have gone and done it even if it wasn't filmed. I just thought it was so cool. It was honestly like a bucket list item for me to see a tornado. And then we were like, let's make it a video. A lot of people were a little scared, but like it was so exciting. It's something we've never even laid eyes on before. And I think that is like, I think that's a huge factor for defining an idea, is like figuring out how excited you are to actually pull it off.
I think that goes to show that like no idea is set in stone. Every idea can work. Every idea can't work. So I think like, yeah, we can get it really detailed. Like, oh, if we do this way, it'll get 80% retention. But sometimes, sometimes RNG gods just kind of like say your videos are going to pop off. Like nothing is set in stone in YouTube space. And that's why I think it's such an interesting space in general.
Well, inherently everybody's a gambler, whether they like to admit it or not. I mean, if everything was predetermined, it would be very uninteresting.
Yeah. Well, we talked about scaling. We talked about all the companies that you started. We talked about just your overall YouTube career. Now imagine you have all the knowledge you have today, but you woke up tomorrow and all of your channels are wiped out. How do you get back to 1 million subscribers? What are you going to do first?
Shorts.
Shorts.
I mean, a very factual answer there. But no, if it had to be long form content, I would definitely start in the gaming space since it's a little bit easier and it's a little bit cheaper. Also, you didn't say I would have like all my connections removed. So it would be pretty easy to also do collaborations for IRL content or gaming content to get that back up there. But if I had to start from scratch, no connections, no leverage, solo content, only Preston in the videos, I would continue to scourge YouTube, spend a week or two figuring out what is the most searched keywords, highest volume creators, and then start from there and develop my own show formats based on their popular show formats, which is what I've done before. I mean, Bulletproof Glass was a married idea to How Ridiculous. They had a bow and arrow with glass. It's how many glass panes can an arrow break? And I was like, this would be really sick if it was bulletproof glass for the world's strongest man, right? And then Jimmy did surviving in the Bermuda Triangle. And I was like, that'd be really sick if we did it, but in a Minecraft boat, right? So like you can literally just continue to add on your own spin and change that. That's what I love about YouTube. I think it's so fun. Like Ryan Trahan did the $20 Mr. Beast video. And I was like, oh, it'd be fun to do a $19 Ryan Trahan video. And then the next creator does an $18 Preston video. Right? You're just adding on to the story. But that would be my method. That would be my method to get to 1 million subs. I still think it would take a long time. It wouldn't be quick, but I'm confident I could do it within 6 months.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to a creator with 1 million subscribers to get to 10 million subscribers?
Ooh, 1 to 10 million. Always doubling down. I think far too many people split their focus, something that I've done, obviously, speaking about it in this podcast. Figure out and identify those series that resonate with your audience and resonate within yourself, and how can you make them bigger and make them better? More and better, right? We always hear Alex Hermosi say this, somebody that I look up to and I love watching a lot of his content. I know you've also been had the pleasure of speaking and meeting with him, but more and better. It's so like simple, but it's so easy. So if people are loving your hide and seek videos, how do you take it to the next level? How do you make it more fun, more exciting? Also, focusing on watch time hours is a really big deal. getting viewers to watch for longer not only will yield you more revenue, but it will also build more impressions and more conversions for viewership over time as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we've done. If you look at the evolution of the Unspeakable channel, we built a Lego house, and then we built another Lego house, and then we built a bigger Lego house.
Yeah.
And then same thing with the filling the house videos. I filled my house with peanuts, and then we bought a bigger house and we filled it with peanuts. And then we turned it into something. We turned it into a trampoline park because I figured out that our filling the house videos, people love them, but also our trampoline videos, people love them because we played hide and seek and did a bunch of stuff in trampoline parks. People love them. So I was like, what if you take both of these ideas, the trampoline park and the filling the house video, combine them, let's make a trampoline park inside of our house, one of our most successful videos. So yeah, I think it's just about kind of like what you're saying, just taking these ideas, combining them, and then building on them. I think the same way that you get to a million subscribers is not the same way you're going to get to 10 million. I did totally different things going from 1 million to 10 million subs. I just did more of what already worked. But when I was going from 0 to 1 million, I was just doing everything. And I wasn't doing more things that already worked because I kind of figured oh, that already worked, so let me do something different.
You're gonna throw noodles at the fridge to see what sticks at that point from 0 to 1 million. But once you get to 1 million, you should know what sticks by then. Once you get to 10 million, you should definitely know what sticks. But we're all human. We do backtrack. We make mistakes, right? You milk a series for too long to the point where viewers don't enjoy it or you don't enjoy it, and you're just not self-aware from that. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
Well, Preston, you are officially our first guest on the pod. Killer job, dude. Thank you so much for coming on here. Is there anything you want to close out with? Talk about anything that you're working on, or just, plug your socials?
Dude, honestly, I'm just excited. I'm honored to be on the podcast. Thank you guys so much. I hope Blueprint goes the distance. Please continue to be candid with yourself and be as self-aware as possible. Practice discipline. Be the coach that you want to be. I've always heard that in the inner monologue of if you could be your own coach, that would be the best coach you could possibly ever have. So that is a level of self-awareness I hope to achieve one day, where I can literally be coaching myself and making myself do the hard things that I don't want to do now, but I know will pay off in the future.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Preston, thank you again for being on here, first guest. And that's
Thank
a
you.
wrap.
I'm going to be king of the pirates one day.
That was beautiful.
My name's Monkey DeLoof. You should join my crew.